Piers Morgan unloads on Crybaby Don Lemon, calls him a dick after he melts down over getting ambushed with the very clip that got him fired from CNN. Now, it really wasn't an ambush. They were talking about censorship, and and basically Piers Morgan was asking him, like, hey, do you feel like you were censored from being fired from CNN from the statement that you made? And then after he got the answer from him, he went and played the clip that that got Don Lemon fired, and he was upset about it. Like, and it really wasn't an ambush because it was apropos. It was to what they were talking about. So I don't understand where he was coming from on that. But we're gonna play the clip and show how Don and Lemon reacted to it. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. There's a link to my Patreon where I talk about things that I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my X account, so follow me there as well. All right, so let's get into this news. Now, this comes from the Gateway Pundit, and they report that Piers Morgan absolutely eviscerated washed up CNN has-been Don Lemon on his show Piers Morgan Uncensored. Lemon, or Lamont, or whatever he calls himself, who was fired last year after his sexist past her prime rant about Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley, thought he could rehabilitate his image on Piers Morgan Uncensored. Instead, he ended up throwing a tantrum about being ambushed when confronted with his own words. And it's pretty funny because no one really likes Don Lemon on both sides. Talking about conservatives, progressive, liberals, left, right. None of them likes Don Lemon. Nobody really likes Don Lemon. But we'll play the clip in a second. But Piers Morgan, he tweeted on X, he said, Don Lemon is going absolutely berserk about me on his Instagram story, which makes me think he's panicking about how he comes over in our interview that drops on Piers Morgan Uncensored tonight. He's right to panic. He comes over, he say over, but you know, we say come off. We say come off as a whiny, touchy, arrogant little dick. You know, Piers Morgan he's from the UK. He's European, so I think that's why he says come over. But you know, we say come off as. You coming off as. Well, Morgan played the moment that ended Lamont's career, where the former CNN anchor declared that women are only in their prime in their 20s, 30s, and maybe 40s. When pressed by Morgan if he regretted the statement, Lamont grew visibly irritated and accused Morgan of ambushed interview. Lemon, or Lamont, kept yapping, complaining endlessly about the quote-unquote ambush, even questioning if Morgan was, quote, that involved in the editorial process of your own show. At one point, Morgan had enough of Lemon's antics and snapped, calling him a dick. But let's play the clip here. All right, here we go.
This is what led to you leaving CNN. Let's take a look at the clip.
She says people, you know, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't necessarily.
40s. Oh, I got another.
I'm not saying
decade.
I agree with that. So I think she has to be careful about saying that.
When you watch that, Don, I happened to be watching that live, and I was like, "Whoa, what did you just say?" Do you? I mean, if you had a do-over, would you say that again? I mean, what led you to say that?
Okay, Piers, let me just say this. I'm going to answer your question, but just so the audience knows, and I hope you don't cut this out, when I asked you what subjects you wanted to talk about, you know what you said to me? You said, I want to talk to you about freedom of speech in America and the response to Charlie Kirk's death.
Yeah.
Not once did you mention that we were going to talk about CNN or whatever. So, and had I known that, I probably wouldn't have accepted this interview. You have invited me on many times, and I tell you, Piers, I know you. I would come on your show, but I don't do panels. And so when you said I'm not going to be involved in the panel, I agreed to come on your show. But I thought you would also stick by the subjects that you told me that you were going to talk about.
Just to be clear,
rather than try to ambush me with something.
Just to be clear,
so,
you and I
yes.
haven't. Well, Don, just to be clear, you and I haven't had any conversation about your appearance here. You're talking about my team talking to you.
Yeah, no, and I saw you, Piers, in a restaurant, and I said, "Hey, Piers, good to see you.
Yeah.
I would come on your show, but I don't do panels."
Right,
and
you're
I
not
said
on
the
a
same
panel.
thing to your bookers.
There's only one
and
of
so
you,
when
Don.
I asked you, and right, okay, and so yes, and I said that's why I agreed to do it. But when you asked me, or when your team asked me what subjects, and I asked them 2 or 3 times, I have the text messages, what do you want to cover?
Yeah.
Not once was CNN mentioned. So I don't appreciate being ambushed. But let me answer your question.
Hang on one second. Oh, Don, hang on one second. Let's just be crystal clear about what's just happened. You brought up the subject of cancel culture. I asked you, did you feel your departure from CNN was an example of that? And you answered the question. And I think it's perfectly reasonable.
And I answered the question.
Perfectly reasonable in that if you said to me, I don't want to talk about it, fine. No, but hang on, no, so sorry. You said what you're going to say. By the way, we don't.
Disingenuous.
Don, we don't edit.
I don't like arguing like this. I'm not going to get into an argument with you. Piers, I think that's completely disingenuous. And I think anyone watching this
What are you talking about?
And so if you will let me, if you will allow me, please
What are you
stop
talking
interrupting
about?
me, okay? Did you invite me here to interrupt me, or are you going to let me
I think you're
answer
being
the
a
question?
complete dick, if I'm honest with you.
Okay.
I do.
Well, that's very kind and respectful of you.
It wasn't intended to be kind or respectful.
I don't like the ad hominem attacks.
Oh, Piers Morgan. It wasn't meant to be kind or respectful. And he was being a dick because it has absolutely everything to do with censorship, because one could argue that Don Lemon was censored because of something he said on CNN. They canceled him, they fired him, they got rid of him because of something he said. So that's why Piers Morgan asked him the question, but instead of him taking that question and answering it or saying yes or no, or, like saying like, oh, I feel like I'm censored, he went off and tried to attack Piers Morgan on it because he didn't, quote unquote, say he was going to talk about this, where it's about censorship though. So he did kind of say he was going to talk about these things, but Lemon insisted over and over that Morgan betrayed him, while Morgan reminded him that free speech works both ways. Let's play the clip. This is only a few seconds here. Here we go.
What you are,
what, Don?
What the guest is going to talk about
Don?
on the
you
program?
Obviously expected
Are you not that involved in the editorial process of your own show that you don't know that, Piers?
Already admitted that one of the subjects was free speech, and yet here you are getting enraged about me exercising my right to free speech to ask you a few questions.
Piers, I'm not enraged. I'm not enraged at all.
Oh, Don Lemon. He just can't. And I love it when Don Lemon go on to do these little man on the street stuff and try to push a narrative, and it's the exact opposite of what he was going for. Like when he did the whole crime thing, asking people of like DC how they feel about crime, do they want the National Guard there and stuff like that, and everyone else was all welcoming with the National Guard and stuff. Like Don Lemon is a total dick. He's an idiot. So I agree with Piers Morgan. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this. Leave y'all comments down below. Like, share, and subscribe, and check out jjthepsychotherapist.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.